If you're like me, you find yourself buying a lot of physical media. I may enjoy the perks of living in the quote streaming age, and I definitely use Spotify more than I listen to my physical records for the pure convenience of it, but there's nothing quite like the satisfaction of owning your favorite albums in their physical form. A digital download just doesn't cut it. Holding the music in my hands allows me to appreciate the music way more than I ever could just streaming it. I can't quite explain it. But buying some albums new are what I'd like to call f***ing impossible. So getting them used most of the time is your only option, whether the album be out of print, extremely rare, or just less expensive. There's plenty of reasons to buy used goods. On my 3 shelves dedicated to all things wasting money, I estimate at least half the stuff I own I bought used, or got free from somebody else pre-loved. So I know all about dealing with cracked jewel cases, broken teeth, scratched discs, faded album covers, ring wear, seam splits, and having some things like booklets just flat out missing. And as easy as it would be to just curse people out for having no respect for their belongings, I do understand it. When I was younger, I took appalling care of my possessions. You name it, I did it. Leaving discs out after using them instead of putting them back, leaving fragile jewel cases on the floor, touching things with my grubby little child hands, which I wash maybe once a year. I can go on. In fact, in my life, I found myself having no choice but to throw out a lot of the DVDs, games, and CDs I acquired in my adolescence because sometimes things are just too far gone. So as much anxiety I can get looking at this wall thinking about how much money resides on it, I remember it can be worse if I took even slightly more care as a child. There would be a lot more here. And honestly, I don't know why I was like this. I was by no means spoiled, and my parents tried to make sure I took care of things I had, but I don't know, I guess I'll have to chalk this up to my child self having the mental capacity of a brick. But at least I can go to bed happily knowing I didn't curse someone else to own this horribly aged copy of Van Halen 1. And I didn't even get a good deal on this. What the hell? This was shipped from Brazil and arrived in a pizza box. Thankfully, the pizza box was clean as a whistle, so I didn't need to know about the no doubt cursed pizza toppings the previous owner likes, but this is still really bad. Vinyl needs to be shipped in a tight-fit box with no room for the record to shift around. The record itself needs to be removed to protect the sleeves from seam splits. The few times I've sent and sold records, I've made sure to do this as I don't want negative feedback, and I like the records to be enjoyed in years to come. It's not that hard. I just use the boxes that come shipped to me when I buy vinyl, so I don't have to buy my own. And I maybe use a bit of bubble wrap or extra cardboard to make sure the record fits snug. The whole process couldn't have taken me more than 5 minutes whenever I ship them off. But can you believe that the guy who let a record get like this didn't do that? But again, I can tell it was already in awful shape long before my dumbass gave him money. But maybe it wouldn't be so bad to look at if he at least took a little bit of care. I have some other records in rough shape, but many of them were inherited to me from my grandmother, so I can't be too mad if she set the needle down a little too hard every once in a while, or if she let them get a little too weathered over time. She got these records in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Some wear and tear is almost inevitable, but some people should just lose their finger privileges. The Pixies' Doolittle. Fantastic record. One of my favorite parts of many Pixies releases is the album covers and packaging. The front cover, the back, the classy looking 4AD logo, the fact it says Demir in ugly ass Sharpie twice when you open it up. Oh god damn it. Okay, I can maybe forgive writing on the disc. Use a little rubbing alcohol and you could probably take it off. But why on the booklet? There's literally nothing I can do in this case. It's on there forever. Thanks, Demir! This'll show you. There's also this copy of the Ramones, It's Alive, which looks like one too many beers were spilled onto it, to the point where the end label is not even readable anymore. Can you make any of this out? Because I can't. Sometimes it's understandable damage. My copies of Faith No More, Introduce Yourself, and Green Day's Dookie have yellowed over the age, especially around the end label. It's kind of gross looking, but understandable, because some things just don't age that well. And besides the yellowing, it's in decent condition, so I don't think it's the previous owner's fault completely. I mostly try to avoid buying Digipaks to use because even though they're cool and collectible, if you drop them or break them, they're done. At least with normal CDs, in most cases you can buy blank jewel cases and replace them, but like with vinyl, there's no replacing these. So even when I buy them new, I try and be as careful as possible because hickeys like this can happen. This is the 30th anniversary of Defenders of the Faith by Judas Priest, and I rate this thing. The packaging is cool to look at, and it has a decent bonus live show from the Defenders tour. It also has this cool design with the head of whatever this thing is, but as you can see, it's starting to tear right here, even though I've taken good care of it since I've got it. Sometimes these things just happen, and it's not always fixable. Also, they don't always have teeth for the CD to lock into when you put it back after playing. They have these sleeves for you to slip the disc into like a record. It's slick, but after a while, I imagine it leaves scratches and wear and tear, so I'd be very wary about buying used Digipaks sight unseen. But even if you buy new, you're not guaranteed to have the album come in one piece. Here's the remaster I bought of X's Ain't Love Grand. The front isn't too bad, the back has some scratches, but when I opened it up, the teeth flew out and the disc tried to run away from me. And it wasn't even used. It still had the plastic wrapping on it and everything. And the CD somehow wasn't scratched to hell and back. But it was shipped to me in a loose envelope with no padding whatsoever. So all it took was one pissed off postal worker to drop the box my package was in too harshly, and something like this can happen. That's the problem with independent sellers on eBay and Amazon. They sometimes know what they're doing, but a lot of the time they don't. Hell, even reputable stores don't always know what they're doing. I also remember buying a bunch of used records from a store and they sold me this copy of Kisses Unmasked with the taped up sleeve. I know sometimes sleeves will come loose, but all you need is a little bit of glue or double-sided tape and you can fix it right up with no one the wiser. But maybe don't use tape in a way that will ruin the art, especially with an album like Unmasked where the cover is a comic so people will spend a lot of time reading it whilst listening. But now whenever I want to listen to this album I have to deal with this eyesore. And the store I bought it from takes in used records all the time, so I'm sure this wasn't done by them. But they also didn't inform me about this in the product description. Where on the other hand, I bought vinyl from the Resist record store on clearance because they said they had corner bends or seam splits, only to brace myself when opening to find that they were pretty much perfect. That's awesome. Meanwhile, this store, which will remain nameless, couldn't even inform me of this? And that's the thing with online record shopping. You don't know what you're going to get. You can blame me for buying sight unseen, but living in bumfuck Melbourne, I can't say I have too many record stores near me. So if I want something, I usually have no choice but to buy online and brace for impact. Sometimes when buying vinyl, I'll get surprised and see I was given a colored record instead of the standard black. Now luckily, I don't care too much about getting colored over black. I'm not one of those purists. I know black usually sounds better, but it's pretty hard for anything to sound bad coming out of my vinyl setup. And honestly, I like the variation and some of these discs look pretty cool. But it's telling when I have never gone out of my way to buy a colored record, yet I own a good handful of them from companies just setting them out haphazardly. I mean, aren't you supposed to pay a premium for fancy colors? It makes very little sense. And if you wanted the vinyl the way God intended, you have to go out of your way to set up a return or exchange, which is a hassle that you shouldn't have to deal with, especially after paying a premium for vinyl in the first place. And after so many unfortunate circumstances in buying used and new music, I'm probably still never gonna swear it off completely, even though I probably should. I mean, look at this, Cheap Trick's Dream Police in near mint condition, and I got it for 15 bucks. That's amazing. Sure, those deals only come up once in a blue moon, but that's what makes them so special when you find them. If every record was super cheap and came in amazing condition, it would lose some of the magic, even though I'd retain what's left of my sanity. It's the thrill of it. That's part of the fun of collecting physical media. That's what makes buying Dream Police for 15 bucks all the sweeter. It almost makes all the headaches us music collectors go through worth it. Keyword almost. What the fuck?